Hey there. Today I thought I would go through my past, my all the schools I've been to and how it's been in all of them. Basically, my experience with school overall. Um, like it's been pretty long ago, and I usually try to what's it called? Suppress things from my past. So it's kind of hard to remember everything vividly, but I'm gonna try my best. So to start up, this was like school, preschool, when you go in class 0 to like 4, I think. This was the first school I ever went to. And I mean, it was tough for me because I missed the first days. So I used to be in like a daycare or whatever where you just had fun. And then I was sick when I was supposed to start here, so I came in a few days later. And I didn't know anyone. We had recently moved in to this city, and I remember not really understanding what's going on. I remember everyone had like tasks, like this is where you started learning math, you started learning, writing, you started having like these schedules. You're supposed to do math and Swedish, and they're like warming up to how it's like to be in school, and I didn't understand any of it. So I remember for about 3 days, I just sat on my bench and looked at all the other kids. I had no idea what was going on, and I was very sheltered from by my parents. I didn't really know how the world works or anything. So I didn't really understand it. I just sat there, and it took like I remember because it was a bunch of days. I thought like it was very strange and boring because I didn't understand anything. And it took a few days until I think the teacher realized that I existed and had to walk up to me and try to explain more for me. And then we started going in school. Like I started to do these things. The thing is, my mom is a preschool teacher and worked a bit in schools and stuff, so she already taught me the basics. So I was pretty hard drilled when it came to that. So for me, it was a piece of cake, plus and minus and basic writing and all that. So I had no real problems. I was like excelling a bit faster than the other kids. Um, I remember there was this one girl who pretended that she could read super fast. So she had like a book and she was like going like this through every page. And no one really questioned her. Everyone thought she was smart. And since I was a kid, I thought she could read that. Well, I was pretty dumb too. What do you think when you're like, how old? What was it? Like between 6 or 7, something like that. But yeah, I mean, that's also the school where we had something called the school wars. As you can see on this picture, this is the school, and that this has certainly been upgraded because I don't remember the slide being on there. But there was so many like wars going on this little castle, and there used to be a it used to be made of wood. Like it was like solid wood. There was no red things on it. And I remember how there were these groups of children, and everyone had like gangster territories, and everyone were fighting, and there was always the big strong guys, and then there were the cowardly guys. And I used to be with the big strong guys, but on the other side, their leader, he was always being betrayed, and he always ended up alone. And so our group always had to send someone over to help him, and I was usually the one to volunteer and help him, and it ended up me just staying with him because I was the only one not betraying him. And that was hilarious. This is probably the most fun. Ooh, tough talking. It was probably the most fun school I ever went to, the first one. And I was pretty good friends with that one dude. And the rest I was kind of, we kind of got along. But yeah, there were these wars. And there are so many fun memories I have of this place. There used to be like past this building, there's like a hill down. And there's like a gym. And there was no one ever in there. And so I remember there was this rumor going around about the skeleton in like the basement, that someone had seen a skeleton, so everyone was always afraid going past there. And another tale I remember, uh, this, like I said, this used to be of wood, and there was this big tower here, and there was a hole in. There was only one hole in, and then there was a room. And me and the leader in my group and one other guy, we were locked in there by these bigger guys from, they were like we were going like in first grade or something, they were going in like third, so they were much bigger than us, and we were locked in there, and they were kicking in sand at us, and we were panicking. And as usual, the third guy, he was like, fuck this, I'm out, and he just bailed on us and said, I yield. And so it was just me and him in there until they finally dragged us out. And I remember that I felt like, I need to help him, I need to help my leader. And there were like three guys holding me, but everything was always on fun, you know. Everyone knew it was on fun. No one was actually bleeding or getting hurt. It was just, you know, everyone was in on it. It was such a unique feeling. And I remember being dragged out, and I remember seeing one of the teachers, and I really wanted to help my mate, and I was yelling like, teacher, and they let me go instantly and backed away, and I just ran to help him. I don't remember what happened after that, but I remember that part, and it was hilarious. There used to also be a big hill, I remember, during winter, and I gave a whistle to my leader, and I told him like, if you end up in a tough spot, call this whistle and I'll help you. And I remember someone else got a hold of that whistle, and I didn't know where to go. I was trying to help the one with the whistle all the time because I thought he gave it to someone else, you know. And I remember how we were trying to hold on and climb to the top, and everyone was dragging each other down, you know. Everyone was stumbling around on that hill. Such memories. And yeah, I went there for like 3 to 4 years, and then it was time to move. First time I lost my friends, and the only one guy that I really liked, the leader, who I thought I thought he was a real friend, you know. But I tried to keep contact with him through like phone lines, but he kind of didn't want to stay in touch. It was usually just me calling him. I used to call him once a week, and he never called me back, so eventually I stopped calling him, and we just grew apart, you know. Anyway, to the school I moved to, Rågenskolan, this was a disaster of a school. Now, the thing is, no, this was a misfit school. Like, everyone here was like a trouble child, where like the kids were beating on the teachers, you know. There were always fights going around, like kids were always doing weird things. And I have a few funny stories from this place. I remember there was one time, this was like, I got my first phone, you know. Back at this time, you know, there wasn't much technology around, so like phones, having like these pocket phones was the first thing. That was a big thing that people had. And I remember I got my first phone, and I ran around, recorded everything. I was always running around filming everything. I remember I caught the strong guys from my class. I caught them opening a window and throwing in a ball, and I remember they told me that they hit the teacher, but I didn't. I was pretty far away, but I filmed everything. And when they noticed, I filmed how they ran and hide, and one of them like played it off like very casually, like walked around like I have no idea what's going on, and the other dude just sprinted. He sprinted and hid like behind a pillar, and I remember just getting everything on camera, and then I showed it to one of my friends there, and yeah, that was, everyone was like, you gotta show that. I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. So yeah, that was a pretty fun memory. Let's see here. Things were still kind of pretty normal in this school. Like, not normal as in the kids weren't normal, but like my health was normal, and I could get along with some of the kids. I had someone to hang out with, you know. I always had someone to hang out with. And let's see here. There was a football field behind this school. All our classes took turns using it. And it was our turn, my class's turn, to use the football field. but another class had taken it. So what my class did was they ran inside the kitchen. There was like a school cafeteria kitchen. They ran into the kitchen, into our classroom, and they grabbed like knives and scissors and everything that was sharp. And they ran out and formed a line and started throwing it on them. And I remember thinking that that was crazy, because even though there was crazy things going on in that school, I was still kind of new to there, and I thought like this was crazy. And I remember watching over, and I saw two teachers standing watching the entire thing happening like this. And I walked up to one of them and was like, you gonna do something? And they were like, we don't want to get knives thrown at us. And yeah, that was a big disaster, but it just settled down. It settled itself down, and yeah. What else happened? I remember there was this one dude. He was like there's always one troubled dude in every school. He always makes up a mess. You know, he's always very gangsta. He doesn't follow any rules. He always messes with the teachers. And he decided to scream mid-class. So he just sat there and screamed and laughed, and the laughing made him scream more. And the teacher was going crazy. And the teacher was like very big and strong. And he took him by the side, and the kid grabbed his table, and he ended up dragging out the kid with his table out of the classroom. And then he closed and locked the room and returned to class. Everyone was laughing and thinking that was hilarious. And it passed like 5 minutes, and then from another way into the classroom, the door gets kicked up, and the kid jumps in and yells, "I'm back!" And it was such a funny moment that I will never forget. But I kind of feel bad for the teacher now when I think about it. He ended up like boxing another kid, and then he just resigned. He couldn't take it. So that's like what I remember from that school. It was very messy, still somewhat weird. Oh yeah, I remember one more story. It was, we used to stand next to a little ledge on the side here. There's still, you see these trees used to go around all the way over here, and there was a ledge and a fence, and there was a highway underneath it. And we used to take pine cones and throw them at cars. So we stood throwing pine cones at the cars, one and one, and you could hear a boink, and we laughed and thought that was funny. And then one time, for no reason at all, everyone decided to throw a shit ton of pine cones on one of the cars, and it made a big boom, and the car just completely stopped, and we were all terrified, so we all just ran for our lives into the school. And then you could hear on the announcement speaker, like they shouted out our names, and were like, "Can you report into the principal," or whatever. And we went in, and we all pointed at that one guy, and we were like, "It's him, he did it." And he took all the blame, and they all believed us for some reason, so we got off scot-free. And he took all the blame for it. And we were just like, let's not do that again. But yeah, for some reason we were still all friends after all that. Like, thinking back at it, it was a pretty messed up thing to do. But everyone was just like that, you know, everyone in this area was like that. And yeah, that's this school. Then we moved again. And this is where it started being tough. Because I remember these two schools I had such good memories of, and I ended up forming some kind of connection with some of the people. Here, that didn't happen. I remember the way to the school was so long. I had to go up 6 in the morning. Like, I was a kid. I was like 11 or 10, or like 11, 10, something like that. And I had to get up like 6 in the morning, bike down to the bus stop, and the bus came around 7, and then it was like an hour trip to the school, and I was used to school ending around like 3. School used to end at 3 or 4. This school ended at like 5 and 6, and then it was another hour home. So I went to school 6 in the morning and got home around between 5 and 7 in the evening. and that just killed me. That just, like, I already had like I was already getting the problems with my energy levels back then, and that just completely drained me. So it just ended up with me skipping a lot of days at school, and I didn't really get to know anyone there. Like, when I went there, like, I didn't form a connection with anyone. I was kind of depressed for losing like all the friends all the time, and like, everyone started to treat me weirdly. Like, this is when like I felt like things are going against me in life. But I still have one funny story from this school. Actually, two. Let's start with one of them. There used to be a fun little football table game in the middle of the cafeteria, and there was always a bunch of people playing with it. Like, there was always random people, everyone who used it. When you played with someone, you got along pretty well. And I did that sometimes. I played a few games. I usually won, which is weird because I wasn't very talented, but for some reason I won at those games pretty often. And I remember just that being fun, you know. They also had a little cafeteria where you could buy, like, it was like a piece of bread with like cheese bread. I used to put down like a buck. Here's a buck, buy a little bread. And yeah, I remember this bench. I used to sit on this bench many times. And I just went out and sat there for the breaks and stuff, you know. But didn't really. It was pretty well mannered school. People were behaving. I didn't really know anyone. It was just I was usually being alone. But there was another incident that happened, and I bet it still is there today. Now, I didn't notice this, but we had recently gotten a cat, and the cat had pissed in my backpack. And since I had such a it was so tough for me to get to school, I had to get up early. I didn't really notice it, so I didn't notice that my bag was soaked in cat piss. And when I got to school, I left my bag in the what's it called? Yeah, locker. I left my bag in the locker. And back then I didn't really take school seriously because I never learned anything in school anyway. Like, my mom learned me most of this stuff. I didn't really do anything in school other than just listen and do my tasks, and then I went home. So I didn't take it seriously. And that made me forget the bag in the school. So this soaked cat piss bag was in the locker in the middle of the cafeteria, smelling down the entire school for a whole weekend because it was Friday. And on Monday, when I got back to the school, everyone was walking around and being like, who has a disgusting perfume? Everyone thought it was a perfume. And I thought so too. I didn't know it was me. I didn't know what had happened. So I thought as well, like, what the fuck is that smell? It's so weird. And then I go to my locker, I open up my locker, and the sheer embarrassment of knowing that it's all cause of me, when I realized what had happened, like, there's no words for it. Like, the terror I felt, like, yeah, the shock. And I was like, no one can know about this. No one can know. And funny enough, no one ever knew. No one figured it out. Everyone kept thinking that someone had a bad perfume, and I was the only one who knew that the reason it smells is because my locker is drenched in cat piss, and it tainted the entire, like, place, so no one could detect it. Like, no one could locate where it came from. And yeah, that's a funny story, I guess. I got away with that. And on the last day before I quit, like, when we were moving away again, and before we quit, I remember I was like, teacher, I need to tell you something. And then I told her, like, I told her what had happened, and she was like, oh, it's okay, like, it's not your fault, and like, who knows what would have happened if you said this earlier, or whatever. You could have been super bullied or whatever. And I was like, yeah. So I left the school, and I bet that school still smells like that today. It still smells of cat piss. Let's see here. Next school. Now, this is the worst school I ever went to. And I remember I was very depressed when I got here because I had like given up. And on the contrary from how tough it was to get to my old school, like this school was very easy to get to. Like I lived up on the hill right behind it, so it was like a 4-minute walk down, more maybe less, like 3 minutes, and I was at school. So what I usually did was I went to school, and when we had the lunch break, which is usually for like an hour, I just went home and watched TV and played games, and then I went back to school. It was super luxurious in that way, but it was also where people started making fun of me. People used to like laugh at me, make weird requests. They walk up to you and be like, hey, can you say or do this weird thing? And you be like, rather not, but you still do it because you feel pressure to it. And then people laugh and call you an idiot. And it's like, I just completely didn't want to know anyone. I just gave up and I didn't want to know anyone. I just want to keep for myself. And I remember during breaks, I used to go out. Like the smaller breaks, I went out and sat on a bench and just practiced swinging a pen with my fingers. You can swing a pen. So I used to do that for half an hour. And then during lunch break, I went home, watched movies or watched TV. And yeah, that's how it was back then. I didn't have any friends. I was just all alone all the time. And then we moved to the last school I went to. But yeah, I brought the mindset that I had from this school into this one. So I didn't really want to know anyone. I just sat around, kept to myself. I was kind of invisible. No, wait, the first time I ended up in this school, they put me in the wrong class. They put me in like a disability class. And I went there for a few months, so I only had school like 3 days a week for 2 hours. And they were like, oops, wait, he's not disabled, he just has dyslexia and stuff. So they put me in like a help class, which, by this point I was still pretty stupid. During all these schools, no one really taught me the ways. No one really showed me how life works. I went like a zombie, idly by everything. So I didn't really understand that I was in a mental challenged groups class. So I had no idea that was what was going on, because it was only me and 2 others there. And yeah, then they put me in a normal class, and that's when I was like, I'm not gonna know anyone here. I'm just gonna be for myself. And yeah, it's like that it was for a while. But then my classmates started to approach me, and we ended up becoming friends, and I used to hang out with them, and they taught me things and showed me like cool stuff in life in general, and I ended up making the best friends I could ever have, and I'm to this day still friends with them. So I was like 13, 14 when I started there, and when I ended I was like 16, 17, and now I'm 28, and we're still friends today. And yeah, there's a lot of stories and fun moments going through that we used to do together in school. But yeah, these are the schools I went to. Those are basically the stories behind them. And yeah, I didn't really learn anything in school. I feel like my mom taught me English, Swedish, and math. And I improved it through playing video games and watching movies and stuff. So I didn't really get to learn anything new in school. I can't think of a single thing I learned in school, actually. But yeah, I passed my grades later. I passed like you have to reach a certain approval rate for your grades, and I reached it. So yeah, that's how it was for me in school. Yep, those are just how it was. Hope you enjoyed this story, living a bit in my past, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye.